I'm Marvel. This channel exists to connect gamers to MMOs they'll love. In this series, I play the most underrated MMORPG on Steam, Project Gorgon. It's inspired by old school MMOs like classic EverQuest, Asheron's Call 1, and Star Wars Galaxies. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more MMO content. In the last episode, just as I finished sipping the magical elixir from the cauldron of vile thoughts, my character's body was transported to a mysterious location. I end up inside a castle in Eltbuel. While I have adventured in this zone briefly before, I've yet to visit this particular location. In typical fashion, I begin to speak with the various NPCs. Helena sells quality armor that emphasizes, well, armor instead of health or power in terms of raw stats and how it interacts with combat refresh. For new viewers, combat refresh happens every once 10 seconds or so in combat, during which your default ability can provide you with a slight boost in HP, armor, or power, depending on equipment or other skill modifiers, not much different from health globes in Diablo 3. I see Hogan, whose descriptive text is literally accurate. I learn he teaches staff fighting, and I examine his abilities. It looks like a powerful skill line, so I keep him in mind for later. Moreover, he sells fires, which presumably are items used in cold regions to stay warm. He also sells cloth armor, which is more balanced than quality, although less protective. Remember this location because it becomes important in the next episode. I exit the castle to go into the hinterlands of Eltbuel. It's an open zone with waterways weaving throughout. You'll see visual improvements to the zone as a result of a new update. I see a Toryurak next to a tombstone and I take the hint. I walk a little farther down the hill and see a spider covered in flames. Nothing like you'd see in your worst nightmares at night. As its 8 hydraulic legs skimmer close, I realize I don't have any sword equipped, and I doubt my liar skills will be of much use. I also can't equip my sword or change combat skills in combat. Thankfully, I am able to defeat the arachnid through wooden flying daggers alone. Also, notice the blue highlight around some of my skills? That means that if used now, they will trigger a combat refresh. I didn't know that, and I wonder why sometimes the other graphic featuring wings renders instead. Perhaps veterans of Project Gorgon can let us know. I walk into a nearby fort, which appears to be an outpost for elves. I wonder if they are connected with the cultists across the valley. And since I'm an elf, and because I'm dirty, I need to bathe to remove an unclean debuff. However, upon walking up to a bin of water, I start having some issues. This is hilarious. The dancing buff at the poetry jam, in addition to how jump logic works, makes it exceedingly difficult to properly estimate when and where to jump. But I finally managed to work out the calculus. The next time I log in, I see a massive post detailing new patch notes. Most importantly, Project Gorgon has recently added mounts, which we'll cover in the next episode. There's more too, some of which you'll see in this video. Also, it's the first time I noticed that at the bottom of the screen there's a scrolling list of actions players made ranging from achievements to random facts. Remember her armor like this because soon you'll see a new Marvel. I log in and am greeted with a string of notices, one of which is advertising a caravan event. More on this later. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see that my hotbar has been reset due to the updates to the UI system as detailed in the patch notes. I'll fix that soon. I also finished my hangout with Marna. For new viewers, hangouts are a micro quest system in lieu of login rewards that progress an NPC's relationship with you. Last yet not least, there is a notice about horses. For everyone who logs in during the month of February, 2022 receives free newbie gear to help start your new equestrian journey. You still need to pay for the horse and the skill, yet this gear should still be useful. Moreover, I access the settings to see if anything obviously has been added and learn that my VIP status has ended. I'll need to fix that soon. Moreover, we're still in Eltibule, yet the quality of the zone has been improved, most notably how the topography at range is rendered. Remembering that Gearshock wants meditation chairs and that you can make them via carpentry and that carpentry requires wood, I tried to harvest maple. However, my sword isn't sufficient, nor is my character's knowledge. I also need to learn how to craft one, so I'm off to Cerebral Keep to learn, or at least that's the hope. As I zone in, I see a fellow player, Dinsaw, and ask if she can help me with general crafting advice. She is also a fairly new player to Project Gorgon and recommends that I speak to all NPCs, which, admittedly, is great advice. Thank you, Dinshaw. I see a large mushroom ahead and notice that it's interactable. I presume it's part of a favor or requires a skill that I have yet to know. Maybe I'll find out what it's for later. As I walk back from the keep after selling my wares, I see Gisli and wonder if he can help me buy a horse. Instead, he can teach me to tame animals. I love pet systems in MMOs. I'll cover this system more in depth when it becomes appropriate. For now, I also see a seemingly random glowing green portal. Obviously, I have to touch it. I'm then transported somewhere, yet it's associated with the caravan discussed earlier. There's a lot going on, and it's admittedly overwhelming. While I recognize that this setup is likely a placeholder, I wish your character was tagged as a first-time visitor, which would take you to a tutorial area teaching you all the mechanics in this zone. I walk down a hallway and see a ferry overlooking an arena. I presume players or NPCs can battle here, although she won't speak to me until I've killed more bosses to have a sufficiently high notoriety level. I then walk into a room with board games, followed by a tavern with a piano and an insect cook. Still not sure where to go or what to do, I see a scattering of tombstones next to a punny mantis. I decide to see where this portal goes and end up in a cave despite its name being Dark Chapel. The mobs are quite strong and seem to be related to the cultic foes in Eltbule. However, they're human, not elves, so either this is coincidental or the mental plague has affected more than one race. Also, some of the cave tiles don't lock properly, so hopefully a developer can implement a fix. Just as I was finishing up defeating a crazed idiot, Shylock, horn and lyre in hand, runs past me. This dungeon is dangerous, so I watch his skill taking down a horde of cultic maniacs himself. Obviously, I need to group with someone like this. I ask to party and he humbly agrees. I presume one of his skill lines is Bard, yet I'm not sure what the other one is. He's able to tank, control, and damage multiple mobs at once, and these foes are not pushovers, at least at my level. Upon looting a corpse, I notice new equipment I haven't seen before. It's Elven Plate that emphasizes armor and only armor. Moreover, it's considered fashionable, yet I have no idea how that impacts gameplay. At this point, I face a trade-off, my newbie gear with many skill modifications, or an obvious armor improvement, yet without power, nor HP additives. I decide to switch, so I'm no longer covered in cobwebs, yet with intricately layered ornate plate armor. This is only the beginning. We encounter another pack that Shylock quickly defeats, yet do you hear this sound? It appears that his horn confers a control ability that keeps the idiot in a perpetual mode of inaction. I appreciate the audio design. It gives us enough time to loot and make preparations for our delve. I open my inventory and I remember that I looted another ceremonial piece of armor which provides hygiene that's useful for some social interactions. I've nearly doubled my armor pool since beginning our adventure in these caverns, yet will it save us from what happens next? As we maneuver deeper into the shadowy chambers of the Dark Chapel, a larger horde of cultists ambush us. Watch. It seems like two groups of mobs spawned near each other, with some of them being ranged. Veterans of Project Gorgon, was there anything else it could have done to have kept Shylock alive? We retrace our steps and begin to surgically pull fewer at a time. We were able to share tanking while isolating maniacs to take each down. You can see on the left-hand side the range of buffs my character still has from the Poetry Jam, which is helping her level. After the fight, I ding 25 in Sword, which also grants another level in knife fighting, so I learn a knife skill. Initially, this was very confusing, yet I later realized what had happened. Next, I loot a red quality 3 mod helmet with some pros and cons, namely that I will have more armor, yet at the cost of lower mentalism damage and being more vulnerable to psychic attacks. I can't wear it yet, although I love that now I have to look forward to using this item when endurance, sword, and archery are each leveled to 40. Watch Shylock in this battle. Not only is he able to control and daze each mob, he apparently has AoE damaging abilities too. If you aren't being hit by enemies, then you don't need much armor or HP, and he demonstrates why. Up ahead is Crazy Terry. You can see that my power bar is nearly empty. Due to so many buffs, it's possible I entirely forgot to eat a snack and a meal, or that the quality of those food items were insufficient. I failed to tell Shylock of my near powerlessness in this situation, and you can see that Crazy Terry has over 4,300 HP and 1,500 armor. Moreover, Terry is clearly crazy because he's only wearing underwear for his privates and his face. Everything else is open for public consumption. You can also see that I resuscitate after being killed. I believe it was a buff from the Bard line, yet veterans of Project Gorgon can clarify. Making our way back to Crazy Terry, I loot a fairy chess piece, since it provides HP and power from combat refresh, and due to my recent problem, I equip it. I like that gear upgrades in Project Gorgon tend to be circumstantial with trade-offs instead of mere obvious statistical upgrades. You'll see whether it's enough to turn the tide soon. Shylock and I plan how we're going to hopefully defeat the inadvertently closed gender-neutral named combatant. He is crazy after all, so all conventions fly out the window. He pulls the boss. See what happens. From what I can tell, Crazy T is resistant to stuns and crowd control effects. His fairly high armor pool is also sufficiently so that it's difficult to specifically reduce his HP. With this observation in mind, I have a question for Project Gorgon veterans. How does armor actually mechanically work? Moreover, Crazy Terry dropped more gear than I can look forward to using, assuming I can continue leveling sword and archery. Also, watch this pathfinding problem. I hope this footage is helpful to a developer. As I read a very strange note giving some background information to the turmoil in these caverns, I hear combat and look down the cave and see that I've unintentionally left my bard isolated and surrounded by crazed cultic idiots. The musician restores his HP yet is quickly bursted down to just 100 hit points. It appears we're outnumbered. Moreover, Shylock's CC abilities either max out at 4 targets or the other mobs are out of range. I turn away to retreat after he falls victim to the barrage. After walking quite slowly, despite being in combat, I'll admit I actually dislike the artificially slow traversal speed while fighting. I finally escape their clutches. But Shylock is back at the beginning of the tunnel system, and I won't survive a surprise spawn of mobs. What should I do? Watch the next episode to find out. Thanks for watching.